Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll be discussing three topics. Number one, Jordan. Number two, Egypt. And number three, the Zionist state, the fake state of Israel. But before I move on, just to remind you, most of my viewers are not subscribed. To get all the updates that you want, consider subscribing to my channel. Let's take a look at this particular video first. This report talks about Jordan, how they are now hosting Arab ministers, and they're meeting Anthony Blinken, the genocide master, for Syrian talks. Take a listen.
As Syrians celebrate the successful rebel uprising that has toppled former President Bashar al-Assad, diplomatic efforts are intensifying to shape the country's future. Jordan hosted high-level talks on Saturday, bringing together American, European, Turkish, and Arab diplomats in Aqaba to discuss Syria's political transition.
Determination to work together to support a Syrian-led transition where the United Nations plays a critical role, particularly when it comes to the provision of assistance, to the protection of minorities, to all the work that needs to happen.
I just want to make one point here, guys. By the way, I'm here if you don't see me. He said that when it comes to Syria, they're abiding by United Nations laws and regulations and resolution, everything that comes from that garbage, United Nations. He's emphasizing that Syrian rebels, the government there, should abide by all of this. But at the same time, we see Israel, they don't give a damn about UN. So Anthony Blinken, why you lecture people to obey or listen to UN dictation or resolution, whatever they pass, when you don't really apply the same rule for Israel? This is a double standard. Obviously, we know this is what they do all the time, but sometimes they become too shameless.
Discussions follow meetings between U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the Iraqi Prime Minister on the same topic. The U.S. has also stated that they would work closely with Iraq to avoid the re-emergence of the Islamic State.
And we are determined to make sure that Daesh cannot reemerge. The United States, Iraq, together had tremendous success in taking away the territorial caliphate that Daesh had created years ago. And now, having put Daesh back in its box, we can't let it out, and we're determined to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, number one, he doesn't even know how to pronounce the name Daesh. Daesh is Daesh. He's calling Daesh. Number two, only if he could apply the same thing for the Zionist state, the real terrorists of the world, like he's applying on Daesh group, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda, and all of those terrorist organizations. Only if he could actually put a leash on this terrorist state, Israel, we would not have to see this many people, thousands of people, dying in Gaza. As we speak, they're still committing those massacres. So Anthony Blinken, why don't you apply the same standard for everyone? Why just Daesh? Why just Al-Qaeda? What about the biggest terrorist organization, which is Israel ITF itself?
Turkey, which supported the rebel group that ousted Assad, has raised concerns about Israeli military activities near Damascus and the Syrian Democratic Forces, a Kurdish-led group backed by the US. On Friday night, Israel's military targeted the headquarters of the Syrian Army's 4th Division. Since al-Assad's fall, hundreds of Israeli strikes have targeted Syrian military sites, including weapons storage and air defenses. Following the collapse of al-Assad's government, celebrations across the country have taken place, especially in the capital Damascus.
نحن اليوم جينا على الأمويين لأنه اشتقنا لأخواننا السوريين اشتقنا لبعض نحن السوريين مفرقين من
I'm not going to play this part, but you get it. People in Syria, they're very, very happy after the fall of this butcher Assad. Now, let's talk about a little bit more on the Jordanian issue. So basically what they are fearing, the Zionist state, as I said, the Zionist state is falling apart. It is facing existential threat. It has done enough damage to itself by committing this genocide in Gaza, because this genocide, even though it could be over in the next, who knows, maybe in the next weeks, months, or even years, we don't know. But what will live on forever is what people have seen in Gaza, is what people have experienced. So for this reason, obviously, Zionists, they also are aware that there could be consequences for their actions very, very soon. And at the same time, they are seeing that Syrian people, they have risen up and this could trigger the people in some other places, especially in Jordan, to rise up at the same time. So now this Zionist, the Israeli researcher, they're warning of a potential coup and unrest in Jordan. What is happening is interesting. Take a listen. An Israeli researcher has warned of growing instability in Jordan, raising concerns of a coup with serious implications for the occupation state, given Jordan's long shared border with Israel. Such an event could pose significant security challenges, suggests Middle East expert Pinhas Inbari of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. According to Israeli national news, Inbari said that unlike pre-revolution Syria, Jordan lacks armed militias capable of forcing its leadership to flee. However, he notes the Jordanian public's strong pro-Palestinian sentiment and the dominance of the Muslim Brotherhood as key destabilizing factors for the kingdom. While terrorist-inspired riots are not Jordan's primary threat, Inbari warns that discontent among Bedouin and Palestinian groups aligned with the Brotherhood could spark widespread protest. This could mirror the uprising seen in Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt, with Syrian inspiration, quote-unquote, Syrian inspiration fueling unrest. Now what Jordan is doing at the same time is they're holding secret talks with the Zionist state of Israel because, as I said, they are in panic mode. Israel's primary concern, according to Inbari, is that a coup in Jordan might enable Islamist movements to seize weapons and turn them against the occupation state, significantly amplifying the threat compared to Hamas in Gaza. He stresses the importance of preserving Jordan's Hashemite government to maintain regional stability and prevent chaos. And the Hashemite government, guys, if you do not know, they are receiving billions of dollars in aid every single year. And the excuse for that is that they are the peace, they are the protector, they are the guarantor of stability in the Middle East. So Hashemite, this dynasty, this dictators, organization, I literally call them an organization or a group, they're receiving funding to protect their own interest, not the interest of the Jordanian people. In a research piece published yesterday entitled Jordan on the Edge, Pressures from the War in Gaza and the Incoming Trump Administrations, the Quincy Institute observed that Jordan's leaders, quote-unquote, have long portrayed their kingdom as on the edge of instability. So again, on the edge of instability, that was their main excuse for, getting money from United States, also from EU. And the Hashemites, they want to always stay in power by those foreign aids coming from European countries. On Friday, Israel and Jordan, they held secret talks, quote-unquote, to coordinate on the situation in Syria. Three Israeli officials told Axios. Jordan is also a key mediator between Tel Aviv and the Syrian rebel groups, including HTS that led the revolution toppled Syrian government Bashar al-Assad. So this is why I said, guys, Jordan is panicking. It is panicking big time. Now let's focus on what is happening in Syria and how this monster and the land thieves, they are trying to grab more lands there. Take a listen at this report.
The United Nations says Israel's ongoing military presence in the occupied Golan Heights buffer zone in Syria is having a severe impact on its peacekeepers. It says the UN mission has had to remove Israeli flags in the area. The Israeli Prime Minister says his army will stay in the area it seized last week in southern Syria for the foreseeable future. Benjamin Netanyahu made the comments during a visit to Mount Hermon, which is in Syria beyond the borders of the Israeli-occupied part of the Golan Heights. Israel seized the territory in the days after the fall of the Assad regime. Critics accuse Israel of exploiting the upheaval in Syria to make a land grab.
Okay, so there are two things you have to understand about Mount Hermon, or Hermon actually. Number one is that this is a tourist spot. If Israel can capture it, and it looks like they have already captured it, then they will be able to make money using that mountain. Hermon is a very much of a tourist attraction. A lot of people, they go there. So Israel could turn this into a tourist attraction and make money from it. And number two is this place, this mount is very close to Damascus, only 40 kilometers away from Damascus. So if Israel wants to destroy Damascus, they can just carry their tanks, all the artilleries, and they can actually shell Damascus from that mountain. So these are the two reasons why Israel is interested in this mountain, Mount Hermon. Now, I want to actually also play this video so that you understand what is going on with this particular mount. Let's take a listen.
This mountain, describe for me what we're talking about when we say it's strategic, exactly what and where and why, because I've seen some gorgeous pictures and can imagine why this might be something to fight over, but take me there.
Well, actually taking it is in a way opportunistic because there's no Syrian army positions there anymore, so it's vacant. So they could take it, they could position their own forces there for the time being. If you consider all of that as Israel territory, if you consider it that way, then it would be Israel's highest point. But also it has a very strategic position looking over into Syrian territory and also looking over on the other side into Lebanon. Because remember, this is right at the intersection of Lebanon, the Golan Heights, and Israel. At the same time also, I mean, the Mount Hermon area, leaving aside the very peak of it, there's Israeli tourism there's tourism that goes on in the peaks of the Golan Heights for skiing resorts in particular. Now, whether they turn Mount Hermon into a ski resort, the very top of it into a ski resort, is an open question. But yeah, there is Israeli economic interest in the Golan Heights besides just the broader area of Mount Hermon and the Golan Heights. Besides military and strategic military ones.
So even though it might look like as if this is a big loss for the Syrian government or for the Syrian people, but it is also really an excuse for the Syrian next government who will come in power to kick them out, to kick and show them the exit way. I'm talking about the Zionists, because this is a complete and clear violation of international laws and all that. So they can use this as an excuse and accuse Israel of violating laws and attack Israel, at the same time gaining support at least from the European nations. Who knows, they might support these Syrian rebels if they have a legitimate reason to attack these Zionist forces there. Now, I also want to talk to you guys about the other news, which is this one, Egypt. So as we have spoken about Jordan, how a coup is on the horizon, how unrest can take place at any moment, but the country that is really now panicking, I would say more than Jordan, is this country, especially after this comment from the Sisi, the saint. Take a listen.
الشعب المصري هو حصن مصر وطبعا ربنا قبل الكل يعني فما تقلقوش بفضل الله سبحانه وتعالى.
Okay, so basically he said that in this speech, he actually was talking, I think it was yesterday, and he was addressing the situation in Syria, and he basically said that, look, I'm the only guy in the whole world, I'm so good, I'm so innocent, I'm so masoom that I have not shed anybody's blood, and I have never taken anyone's money, quote unquote. He said, my hands have never been stained with anyone's blood. Again, he's a saint. And I have never taken anyone's money. How funny is that? But that's exactly what he said. Why? The question was obviously why. It is because he knows that his days are now being numbered. The Muslim Brotherhood is going to rise up one more time. And he has a lot of internal struggles with his people, especially including even the Egyptian actress. We know Bassem Youssef, famous one. But not just Bassem Youssef, but there are a lot of people. I don't think Bassem Youssef is openly anti-Sisi, but there are other actors from the entertainment industry in Egypt who are opposing Sisi. It is just a matter of time now that the uprising will take place in Egypt. Now, he said that he never had anybody's blood on his hand. Let's take a listen at this particular reporting. He is not remembering what he did in Rabah in the year 2013, August 14. So commenting on the fall of Bashar al-Assad, Egypt's President Fateh Sisi said, two things I have never done. My hands never been stained with anyone's blood, and I have never taken anyone's money. the Rabaa massacre ordered by then General Sisi. So this guy, he said, I have not taken anyone's life. I have never shed blood, right? But in the year of 2013, August 14th, do you know what he did? He ordered, so at that time he was the defense minister of Egypt. He ordered to kill the protesters. Do you know how many he killed in just one shot? Over 1,000. Over 1,000. And their fault was that they were protesting against the government. And that happened in August of 2013, August 14, after Morsi fell. And he was ousted as the president of Egypt. And this was dubbed as the most brutal crackdown on protesters in human history. And today what he's saying, oh, I have never killed anybody. Never, ever. So this is why I need you to read this. So the Rabaa massacre, ordered by then Sisi, occurred on August 14, 2013 in Cairo, Egypt. The massacre took place after the military coup that ousted President Mohamed Morsi on July 3, 2013. Protesters, primarily supporters of Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood, had been staging sit-ins at Rabaa Al-Adawiya Square and Al-Nahda Square. Demonstrators, and so the people were demonstrating and they were showing support for the Muslim Brotherhood. Egyptian security forces, under command of then Defense Minister Abdel Fattah Sisi, used lethal force to quote-unquote disperse these sit-ins. The operation involved the use of live ammunition, can you imagine, armored vehicles, and tear gas against unarmed protesters. Human Rights Watch documented between 817 to over 1,000 deaths during the dispersal at Rabaa al-Adawiya Square alone. Amnesty International has also reported that over 1,000 protesters being killed during the massacre. The massacre was widely condemned internationally as a crime against humanity. It has been described as one of the largest killings of demonstrators in a single day in recent history. However, no high-ranking officials have been held accountable for the massacre, with many pointing to a culture of impunity for such acts in Egypt. And well, we all know that these people, these monsters, these dictators, these tyrants, they kill a lot of people and they get away with it. And this is nothing really new. It is happening almost every day in Egypt and places like elsewhere in the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Libya, in Yemen, elsewhere. Situation there in all of these countries, they're pretty bad, pretty dire. And they definitely need a big change leader that will take care of his people and not oppress them.